Going wink on the line and air bridge collapsing.
There's a sponsor. Kevin.
Out for the first time since the Speyside, Terry Smith and Kenny Fogle's weekend started poorly when they discovered their hotel had been double booked. Out on the stages, things were going pretty well, Terry finding the Swift's grip limits, and they took 64th overall at the finish.
Oh, you dancer. Keep on the road, boy. Keep on the road.
Owen McLeod and Ryan Urquhart's day started strongly, despite a couple of brushes with the scenery. The second half of the day was tough. The exhaust parting company with the manifold was easily sorted, but the big issue was a dodgy fuel pump. The car cutting out on the start line of the final stage, but they managed to nurse it home in 61st overall. Just 5 seconds clear of the McLeod 205 at the finish, Edward Noble was delighted to finally see the finish of an SRC event, especially after pre-event wiring issues. With new navigator Erin Wood alongside, the Fiesta pilot was growing in confidence all day, taking 60th overall at the finish.
Well, you'll have a lot of fun, I'm sure.
Oh, looking forward to it.
Old girl?
Yes, 1973, she's 50 years old this year, and we're still keeping her sort of welded together, keeping her going. Yeah. So I hope she's got many more years left.
57th overall, John Brownie and Gordon Ritchie entertained the fans with a big sideways moment over the Fetteresso Bridge, but apart from that, things were running well in the cadet. Second in class, giving John and Gordon third in the class point standings with 2 rounds left. If we were to list all the things that have gone wrong for Craig Smith and Charles Mackenzie in 2023, this video would be incredibly long. The Grampian was no exception. This argument with a ditch was a minor issue, but they spent the day battling a badly overheating engine in the Astra. Seeing the finish for the first time since the Snowman, they took a well-earned 54th overall and a class win, warranting a special celebration at the finish.
What a relief, I'll tell you.
How were the last 2 stages?
Well, the temperature, we've pulled the radiator, so the temperature's through the roof. It's spewed on its oil, so it's ready to blow up and all. So we're lucky that that was the last stage, I think. So, just absolute delight.
We went into our lateness and going into the last stage just to let it cool down, and we put another bottle of Radweld in it to hold it, and luckily it held for the last stage. As we were having a talk on the start line for the next stage. It was like, what are we going to do? We just pull it through, or I says, this engine's due a rebuild when I get it back anyway. I says, well, just go for it, man.
Cameron Black and Duncan Don's Mazda 323 was sporting new suspension sourced from a company in Finland. 2 stages in, and Cameron was clearly happy with his new purchase.
60. Yes.
This thing is a different motor with that suspension.
So 11.060.
Unfortunately, stage 3 was going to prove to be their undoing.
4 past the junction. 250, just... We're alright.
I think I've burst the brake line.
250. Try your brakes.
Yeah, I've burst something.
Have you?
Yeah.
Missing stage 4 to sort the problem, they were able to super rally for the rest of the day and get good experience of the new setup. Rounding out the class finishers, Neil and Ian Phillip were very happy that the car saw another Grampian finish, having finished every single one since it was built in 2011. 59th overall and 4th in class leaves them 5th in the class points. Taking a solid 48th overall, Liam Richardson and Darren Kennedy were enjoying their run on the Grampian, despite a few moments in the slippy conditions. Liam and Darren describing it as probably the best rally they've done so far in the Impreza. Thomas Rapson and Michael Sutherland struggled in the morning with no turbo boost on their Impreza for the first 2 stages. That was fixed at first service, but the car still wasn't running right on SS3 and 4. That was then sorted at second service and they were back to full strength, enjoying an excellent battle with Mike Motes and Gary McDonald for second in the Subaru Cup. Unfortunately, David McLeod and Eamon Boyle would be forced out with clutch failure in stage 5.
It's the 16th of September.
Oh, Keith Robertson.
Firenze.
Keith Robertson and David Law had made some changes to the Firenze after the Scottish in a bid to pull some more performance out of the car. Confusingly for them, they seem to have not had much of an effect. It was still a solid clean run to 44th overall and second in class to the two-wheel drive winners Stuart Eggleston and Brian Hodgson. Sadly, Ernie and Patricia Lee were out with engine problems before SS1. Grant Ingalls and Gavin Chisholm were running solidly until a seemingly innocuous mistake. Despite being next to the road, they were stuck for 45 minutes. And that was a fate shared by Sandy Fairbairn and Craig Forsyth in the BMW. Both crews were able to carry on in Super Rally, gaining some important mileage. .52nd overall, Donald Brooker and Tony Booth produced another typical drama-free performance in the Subaru Legacy, grabbing 5th in the Subaru Cup in the process. Jim Robertson and Mike Curry had adopted a cautious approach in the slippy conditions, an approach that seemed warranted after Ingalls and Fairbairn's offs. 42nd overall was enough for them to take another Hado Energy Super Seniors win, cementing their position at the top of the points.
No, we managed it. There was a lot of cars off, so we're just trying to be extra careful. But the Super Senior was what we were aiming for, just to try and make sure we could clinch that one and go in for there, but that's what we wanted.
Donald Peacock.
Oh, come on, Donald.
Come on, Donald. Get on yourself there, boy.
Mary's looking after him.
And taking the Class 1, Donald Peacock and Mary Riddick enjoyed their day out once again. The biggest issue was a return of the wiper problems they had experienced at the Scottish when the rain came. Donald suspecting the wiper motor is due to be replaced. Despite not being able to see in the wet, they took 37th overall. Ryan Ingram and Callum McDougall were getting back into the swing of the gravel in the Civic. Unfortunately, they retired an SS3 when the steering column came apart. Thankfully, they were able to stop the car without any major damage. Dave McIntyre had shown a hail in the hot seat for the Grampian, the C2 pilot under strict orders to keep the car in tip-top condition for the upcoming Mull Rally. As such, he was adopting a safe approach, guiding the car to 56th overall.
Yeah, the car's kind of handling the same as it was at the Scottish again. I thought if we put softer tyres in the back that would have sorted it, but no.
Same.
So it's the same again, but you kind of get used to it more, but it's a bit weird. Yeah, back end's just all over the place.
Megan and John O'Kane were still battling with the handling issues they had experienced in the Scottish. Despite that, the Fiesta pilot was in the lead of the ladies after 2 stages, just ahead of Aileen and John Forrest. Then things began to unravel, the car cutting out in stage 3 and dropping them just behind the Evo. The final loop saw them slide into a ditch for 20 seconds, but they survived to take 46th overall and second in the ladies.
It's going to be interesting to see how you get on today.
I think there's a lot of folks saying that.
It's going to be shocking. Absolutely shocking.
But it could be superb.
The road book is in the back already.
Aye, he's threw it away.
But the best thing's here, it's never very sure before we start.
Where they go. Doesn't care what they are.
Well, all the best to you.
Aye, it's good to see him.
So it's
Sandy Arbuthnot had made the brave decision to ask Brian Watson to navigate for the Grampian. It was a short affair, the Mark II retiring with mechanical issues in stage 2. Making their first start of the season, James Brims and Ian MacDonald were back in the ex-McCulloch Mark II. Getting back into the swing of things throughout the day, they took a solid 41st overall. Just under a minute up on the red Escort, the Grampian was treating David Hardy and John McCulloch better than the Scottish had last time out. Still adapting to the new power plant, David confessed to finding these stages to be hard work on the way to 35th overall. Brian Ross had Nicky Addison in the hot seat for the first time in the big engine Mark II and was throwing the car around in good style on the stages. 43rd overall and the M5 win was a solid result, especially considering they had to deal with a cracked exhaust manifold for most of the day. Mike Motes and Gary McDonald were not only enjoying their Subaru Cup battle with Thomas Rapson and Michael Sutherland, but also with good mates Simon Hay and Callum Jaffrey in a battle of the SRC supporters. It was back and forth all rally between the Motes Offshore and the Albon Garage teams, but it was the Evo crew who came out on top by just 11 seconds at the finish, with this result keeping Mike and Gary in the Groundwater Lift Trucks Subaru Cup points lead. Just another 11 seconds up from the Albon Garage Evo, Brett McKenzie and Barry Young were back together for the first time since their Speyside retirement. The rebuilt Evo running well to 34th overall and enjoying the battle with Hay and Motes. M6 at the Grampian was a rematch from the Scottish between the imprezas of Ian Baumgart and Duncan Cameron. With Dave Robson back on the notes, Ian was going about things in his usual neat style, with Cameron and Michael Cruikshank doing their best to stay with them despite some rear diff issues. At the end of the event, it was Ian and Dave coming out on top by just 2 seconds at the finish. The blue and white Impreza finishing a solid 20th overall. Aileen Forrest was the other half of that big ladies' battle with Megan O'Kane. Unimpressed with herself in the morning after moments like this in the slippy conditions, the afternoon was much better. Swapping times with O'Kane and banishing the memory of last year's accident, the Evo pilot took another ladies' win by just 15 seconds in her home Forests.
Oh my goodness, what a battle with Megan, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Even down to the very last stage, we were the same time in the last stage, so it was unreal.
After their disastrous Speyside, the Grampian was much kinder to Scott McCombie and Murray Strachan. The new Evo finally starting to work for them in their home Forests on the way to 39th overall. Barry Groundwater and Sean Donnelly were back in their polo for the Grampian. Despite Barry's description of how slippy the stages were being unrepeatable, the car was sounding absolutely glorious out in the woods. 31st overall was their reward.
This is a car I only got last week, so fingers crossed it goes okay. I'm looking forward to being here, so just got a bit bored of playing golf and doing nothing, so thought I'd come and have a bash.
Back after a layoff from rallying, Donnie McDonald and Andrew Faulkner were also back in an Evo after years of Fiesta rallying. Taking some time to readjust to Mitsubishi power, they were delayed with prop shaft issues for most of the afternoon, but survived to take 26th overall. Angus Laurie and Paul Gribben had started well in stage 1 until this happened.
Gone.
Oh,
Angus Laurie. Angus Laurie.
That was a bit hot.
Yeah, she's out.
That left him with a damaged exhaust for the rest of the loop, some subtle hammer work at service sorting that. After that they had a decent afternoon, taking 12th overall at the finish and third in class behind Jock Armstrong and Mark McCulloch. With Peter Stewart and Harry Marchbank taking a comfortable Pro 2 Class win, it was left to the battle for second to provide the fireworks. Richard Stewart and Cam Tate Logan had the place by 27 seconds over Lindsay Henderson and Sue Hind after 3 stages. Henderson and Hind, however, had made some suspension tweaks at service and were beginning to charge, taking 22 of those seconds back over the final 3 stages, leaving the Fiesta just 5 seconds down on the 208 at the end of the day.
Right. Oh, Stuart. Oh.
Stewart and Mark Irvin's horrible season continued, the I-20 breaking a drive shaft and the steering off the start line of SS1. They limped through to the end of the stage, but that was as far as they could go. Rounding out the class finishers, John Morrison and Sinclair Young produced a steady drive to 30th overall. John feeling he was starting to get back into the swing of gravel in the Fiesta, having mainly concentrated on tarmac in recent times. Chris Colley and Ricky Finlayson were making their R5 debut after putting together a last-minute deal to buy a Fiesta. Chris spending the day getting to grips with left-hand drive and a totally different driving style to what he's used to. They ended up just 3 seconds down on John Rintoul and Ross Hind. The FCE Fiesta back to full power after the Scottish, and they were running well, adjusting the car to suit the slippy conditions as the day progressed and taking 24th overall. Fresh from a good run at the Scottish, Bob Adamson and Richard Wardle were running strongly here too. Not really enjoying the morning stages, a couple of setup tweaks helped, and they were enjoying their run to 16th overall. Also fresh from a good Scottish, Willie Patterson and Tom Hind weren't quite as comfortable in these stages. Adjusting the car setup as the day went, they survived a big spin in stage 4, thankfully without hitting anything. The Fabia crew managing a solid 14th overall at the finish.